The Deans here, bringing you a Jeep adventure in extreme western Colorado, a place called Calamity Mesa. This run is up out of Gateway, Colorado, and climbs up into the plateau area of the Uncompahgre Plateau's extreme western flank. This run was part of the Grand Mesa Jeep Club's 2022 Rock Junction event and was led by club member Jeff Weber. It's a very steep climb from Highway 141 to the top of Pine Mountain, but it certainly rewards you with fantastic views of the Red Rock country around Gateway, Colorado.
Kilometers went by your horse trailer up Divide Road.
Yeah, 10-4, we came in on that off Divide Road, not over here.
Street road.
I'm up at the top here. I'm going to stop here to regroup, and this is good number if you still need a chance to take a 100.
What's the horse trail over there? There too, horse trail.
Once reaching the top of Pine Mountain, we stopped to regroup and enjoy the views of the flowers and the beautiful old Ponderosa pines. We then continued on south towards Calamity Camp. It's an abandoned uranium mining camp that had its heyday in the late 40s and into the early 1960s.
We'll just make a circle and line up to the ready to head back out. Once down here, go ahead and get out, hop out and check out the camp. We'll be here for a little bit.
There's quite a bit left to be seen at the uranium mining camp of Calamity, due primarily to the efforts of the Museum of Western Colorado and the Bureau of Land Management. We hope you'll enjoy these images of Calamity Camp and hope that it inspires you to get out and see the camp for yourself. While we were there, we also got to visit the Calamity uranium mine, which will be in the photographs after the camp pictures. There's still a bit of old machinery left at the Calamity mine. There is a large 3-cylinder diesel engine. The builder's plate was missing, so I don't really know what kind it was. And it is still belted to a huge Sullivan 2-stage mine compressor.
Alright, this concludes the graded road portion of this trip. We're now about to continue around this mountain on the right-hand side of us, all the way back at where that yellow sign was, where we'll end up about halfway around that loop. is the lunch spot where we have an overlook onto the valley.
There were many beautiful views of the canyon country as we worked our way around Calamity Mesa. Here we're looking off into Calamity Canyon, and we worked our way around Calamity Mesa to one of the most gorgeous lunch spots I've been to in many years. The Calamity Mesa run was pretty mild wheeling up to the lunch stop. Then after lunch you get to the funner part of the wheeling. It's still moderate wheeling. As seen here, Jeff Weber was climbing this without lockers just to show that it could be done fairly easily. But of course lockers are a luxury. Here I'm using our 98 Jeep Cherokee, which sits on Pro Rock 60 axles, of course ARB lockers, and an Atlas tube with a 5.0 low range. And we're just easily crawling up the rock pile here. And we'll show a few pictures here and video of some of our other friends along on the trip as they work their way up this little section. Christine and I came along on this trip due primarily to an invite from one of our Jeepin' friends, Jim Tatman out of Grand Junction. And here's Jim driving his silver 4-door JK on up the rock pile. The blue 2020 Gladiator is owned by Jim's friend Denny Daly out of Grand Junction.
The first of the 3 squeeze obstacles. There's a rock on the right that kind of pushes over to the edge, and so you gotta put your tire close.
You can come this way.
Of the 3 squeezes on the Calamity Mesa loop, the first one here, number 1, is not really that tight, but it gives you the most thrill because it is perched on the cliff edge.
Are you straight? No. It's gonna just barely touch. Now this way. Straight. You can go straight now. You're good.
Squeeze number 2 shown here is the most forgiving and easily the widest of the 3 squeezes.
Good.
Now the term squeezes was used by our trail leader And I assure you that the only one I have is Christine. Moving on to the next obstacle, and probably the one that gave a little bit more challenge to some of the rigs, we have Jeffrey Weber here being spotted by his wife up a washout section that has been rebuilt by simply piling boulders into the washout.
And now there.
As I bring the Cherokee up through the rocks, Christine was the one that was pretty busy as she was snapping these still photos, running the video camera, and she was also spotting me up the rocks as Jeff hadn't had time to get back yet and help me with the spot. Here, Jeff Weber is spotting Jim Tapman up through the rocks, and he drove it completely without drama.
Is he locked in?
Here we have our Jeeping friend Dave Vager out of Grand Junction. Dave struggled a little bit more on this rocky obstacle than the rest of us. And the funny thing was, we didn't find out until a day or so later when we ran the Tabawatch Trail, and someone asked Dave, "Hey, what's that hanging down under your Jeep?" when we discovered that the rear locker wire had fallen off, so he didn't have a rear locker on this. The nacho colored JL here was expertly driven all day by our neighbor, Guy Borden out of Olathe, Colorado. Now here's the guy that gave us some drama for the day. I don't remember exactly his name except he was out of Wisconsin. And he was not locked up at all, no lockers in the Jeep, and the sway bar was still hooked up. So he gave us a little wheel lift here that was kind of exciting and gave us the drama for the day. Our tail gunner for the day was Caleb Payne, driving this pretty nice 1949 CJ3A with a Chevy V8 and a 4L80E transmission, I believe he told me. Now here is the third and final squeeze, and this one is the tightest of all. Christine shot some video.